Alessandro Bastoni is officially the #1 priority in the centre-back department for Real Madrid. There's some crazy things coming out, especially why Jose Mourinho wants him, because some of those reasons that are being discussed why he wants him, I don't particularly agree. That his price is being thrown around. This is gonna be another episode of the Transfer Talks. So please, if you enjoyed this series, like, comment, subscribe, and let's get straight to it, because I have the alternatives to Bastoni. I have my thoughts on him, why Real Madrid should buy him, shouldn't buy him, what are the other players that we shouldn't be, looking into, and we should be looking into, maybe some World Cup players. But let's focus on Bastoni first. What does Bastoni offer? How much would he cost? Do I think it's a good signing? Okay, let's start with that officially now that he will be our priority. And I think the main thing is that Jose Mourinho has that eye on him, because he did coach in the Serie A. He did coach Roma for, I think, 3 or 2 seasons. So he knows Bastoni. He has known Bastoni probably, longer than all of us. He knows his qualities. He has played against him multiple times as well. He has watched him probably more than everybody else at this club, and even the scouts. Because when you are in a league, it's just different, You know yourself, if you have ever played football, you just know the players, you know this, especially if you've been there for over 2 years. I think Mourinho, with this much confidence, there has to be something in Bastoni. There has to be something that we are not seeing, because I think Bastoni is a great centre-back. I do think he relies a lot on the system that Inter was playing in the last, 3-4 years under Inzaghi, and now even last season, which is the 3-back system. And yes, they get into the UCL final. Yes, they won the Serie A. But I just think there's always something missing with that formation. And that's just stability. Stability with that formation, and especially the center-backs, when they go into a formation that has a 4-back. You're not playing with your wing-backs, bombing up and down, in the pitch. And you don't have 2 people next to you that are defensive monsters. No, you are playing as a 2. If one makes a mistake, you're there alone. If your fullback leaves you alone, you're there, and you only have 1 guy next to you. There is not 2 guys next to you. And also, it doesn't help that the fact that Bastoni is the wide center back in a 3-man partnership in the defense. But once again, it can honestly be a benefit for us to finally have a proper left-footed centre-back, because David Alaba, let's be honest, guys, hasn't even played football for us for the last, 3 to 2 years. David Alaba is not even a player. Bastoni is a left-footed centre-back, which I like a lot. Once again, does he fit into the 4-back system? When I saw this, I was honestly, I'm not gonna lie, first thoughts on this, I was honestly quite happy. With everything I said, even with the 3-back and everything, because I just want a center-back. I need a center-back at this club, because Guardiola is already out the picture. Some other big names are just not available. Like, we wanted Upamecano. Even if we wanted to sign any PSG, Arsenal players, that they are just not for sale. And I think younger center-backs are... They will just not be good for us. I saw some people saying, maybe Vuskovic, maybe some players that are going to arise in the World Cup. But I just don't think that's the right case to do. I would much prefer Bastoni over any young centre-back. But there were some other players like Nico Schlotterbeck, who I think is a similar kind of option to Bastoni. I think Bastoni has a little bit more quality, but of course, he's going to be much more expensive than Schlotterbeck, who only has 1 year left on his contract, but has now suffered a ligament injury, which is an 8-week injury, which basically deletes the whole preseason with Real Madrid. And if you know Jose needs time. He needs to have one-on-one time with the players. He needs to connect. That's just not going to happen with Schlotterbeck, especially with his injury. And buying a player that as soon as he gets injured, his whole nation goes to cheeks, because Germany is already out the World Cup, so he can't even come back to the World Cup. He wouldn't even have been, eligible to play, even if they made it to the final. That's how bad the injury actually is. I think there's no way for us to buy him, even though I think he did great at the World Cup, scoring that goal. He wasn't bad defensively. He's a great defender, but right now with the injury, there is genuinely no possible way we are going for Nico Schlotterbeck, who was one of the alternatives to Alessandro Bastoni. And then we have Ruben Dias. I still think this is a possible option if Bastoni doesn't go through. But once again, he's a little bit older. He is going to be a lot more pricier, especially because he's coming from City. I think his contract is When is his contract even running out? Even if it would be, even if it would be a higher number, I think the price would be around the same as Bastoni, which I don't think is good business, honestly. Players from the Premier League always go for a lot. When I watched Ruben Dias, you could see the age is slowly creeping up to him. When he was 25, 24, 26 in those UCL years, the prime City years with Ruben Dias there, he was a great centre-back. Warrior, he was great on the ball, he could finish with his head, he wasn't bad, in 1v1 duels. But now, a little bit of speed, he has had some small injuries. I don't like Ruben Dias as the first number one priority. If it maybe happens and he would come as a backup for, a reasonable price, because if he's going over, I don't know, anything over 50 million, I'm not even looking at this as a possible signing, honestly. I just think it's bad, honestly. Ruben Dias is not a player I particularly want at Real Madrid. I would be looking at this as a reverse, a reserve option, sorry. Now, back to Bastoni. This is what Jose Mourinho, apparently, said about Bastoni and why he might be the perfect centre-back, or he believes that he will be the perfect centre-back for Real Madrid, which I don't. Honestly, I don't think he's the perfect centre-back. I think Guardiola would have been different. I think some people, maybe even, Van de Ven, I think has a chance to be better than Bastoni. I think there's some players that we could be looking at that are better than Bastoni, but can we get a deal on them? How are they going to perform in the World Cup? I don't know. With Bastoni, there is a set price. There is going to be some value. That is not going to go up. There is no way for him to go up because this guy is not even playing the World Cup because Italy is cheeks and he literally cost them the qualifier against Bosnia. But Jose Mourinho said that he is experienced, fair enough. Winner, fair enough. Immediate starter. Wow, okay. Alessandro Bastoni is an immediate starter and already at the club. We signed Rudiger for another year. We're gonna keep Huijsen, of course. We have Militao, who's injured, of course, but he's gonna come back. Then we have Konate. There's already 4 centre-backs. So you're basically saying, we all know that you are basically choosing between Huijsen, Konate, and Bastoni. Because Rudiger, I don't think he's starting. I don't think, I just don't think Raul Asensio is even going to stay at the club, and maybe somebody comes in as well as a backup. We can be thinking about it that we are going to sign more players than Bastoni. I think Bastoni is going to be the final player if we sign him as a defender, because we already signed 4 defenders at that point. I agree with that he's experienced. He has a lot of deep UCL runs. He has played 2 UCL finals, even though he has lost. That's a great achievement, especially for Inter, but when they have literally no money from Serie A. He's a serial winner. He has, I think, won 3 Scudettos or 2 Scudettos in Serie A. An immediate starter. I don't know. I just don't know. Is he better than every other player at Real Madrid? Maybe he is, maybe I'm just underrating him, because I'm not gonna lie, I don't watch the Serie A too much, but when I watch Bastoni, especially against a really good winger or an attacker that is really good on the ball, technical, he seems to struggle sometimes. And in some big games, I do think he can have a Bozo gene, but then again, his ability on the ball, his ability to actually, be versatile, play as a fullback, play as a, an inverted fullback. He can play as a defender, center back. He can do, technically, he can do everything. I'm not fussed about it too much. But defensively, that is just some questions. That 4-back question is gonna be in everyone's mind before we actually see him play in a 4-back formation with Jose Mourinho. But I also wanted to talk about this. Madrid's own, I don't know if this is actually factually true, but Real Madrid have fully launched Operation Bastoni. His price will be around 60 million, according to J. Felix Diaz. And I honestly, my first thought was this exact tweet by an Inter fan, yeah? Yeah, we're definitely selling Bastoni for 60 million when he have 3 center-backs in the whole squad. Honestly, my thought, I saw his value before, the World Cup and everything, because we were already looking at him as an option, because Barcelona were looking at him as well. He is a sought-out player. But, 60 million? Really? In this day and age? In this market? I think he would be minimum 75 million. And if you're telling me I have to buy Bastoni for 75 million, I'm suddenly not so okay with the deal, if I'm going to be completely honest. Because is he actually a starter then? How is he going to look at that? You know, I think there's a little bit too much of a mystery if he's actually going to work out for Jose Mourinho in the system that he wants to play at Real Madrid, which is probably going to be a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 that basically has those wingers that help defend, you know what I mean? And he's going to be playing Jude Bellingham as a 10. I don't know, guys, you have to let me know, honestly, if there is any Inter fans or any Serie A watchers that are religiously watching the Serie A that know a little bit more about Bastoni than me. You can teach me about Bastoni, but from what I have seen, especially in the UCL and in some big games, I think he's just a good centre-back. I think Nico Schlotterbeck would have been on the same level, for example. I maybe think Van de Ven would be maybe better, but there is that question of, once again, injury proneness. You know that there has been a lot of injuries with Van de Ven. Honestly, guys, when picking a centre-back in this day and age, with Ruben Diaz, Schlotterbeck, Van de Ven, Bastoni, you know, even Guardiola before, there is just so many things you have to talk about. Contract situation, injuries, how long has he had a, you know, good season, a bad season? Because, for example, Ruben Diaz, you're looking at the form as well there. With Bastoni, you're looking at the World Cup moment, for example, how he's gonna fare mentally with that. Now, winning the league, of course, but once again, how much is he gonna cost, the price? How will he develop? How will we look in this system? There is so many things to speak about, honestly. And I'm not gonna lie, it's too fucking hot in my country to be thinking about too much these transfers, because I hear this every single day. This guy is the top priority. This guy is the top priority. Then this guy, then this guy, this guy. Then we change the player. Then we change the player. Then somebody gets injured like Schlotterbeck, and then suddenly Bastoni is the number one priority. You know, I just want to bring you these news, but sometimes I say to myself, should I make a video about this? Is he really the top priority? Because I saw like the Moroccan center mid, the young one, Bouhaddi, and I saw, you know, Real Madrid, him being a target, and I'm like, really? Should I make a video, bro? I'm already sweating fucking pits, bro. Like, am I gonna make a video about Bouhaddi? Really? No, I'm not gonna lie. Real Madrid has to chill out with the top priority, and these sites on Twitter have to chill out with the number one priority, number one target, break-in and everything. I just want to bring you guys the news that I actually believe are true. But do I believe Bastoni is the right man for Real Madrid? I honestly don't know. For me, it would be a 50-50, and if he came into the Real Madrid squad for maybe 60 to 70 million, I would be straight on him from the first game. He has to perform. He has to show me why we even bought him. But if he's Jose Mourinho's man, we're gonna see, guys. We're gonna see if he comes to Real Madrid. I want you to tell me what you're gonna think about this signing if Bastoni actually lands at the Santiago Bernabeu. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next transfer talk, because there's going to be a lot of them this summer. Peace out.